Hi, I'm Lucy from the CSM team at Patch, and today I will show you how to create the most powerful CRM activations, which are the triggers. So first, triggers are messages which are triggered by your users when they are using your app or your website. They are usually are the most engaging use cases because they are relevant to your users and match what the user is actually doing on your website and your app. So first, let's meet in the automation tab and then go to new automation, push. First thing first, give a name to your campaign. I will do an Amazon search trigger. If possible, add a label to your campaign because it will ease your future usage of the analytics. So it's a real recommendation from us to do that. The form is then not changing one bit except for one important part, which will be the orchestration, the when. So, as always, the first thing will be to pick your target and add conditions if necessary. So, let's imagine this trigger is will only be live in France. You can add the country in here. Once you're okay with your targeting, you can then go to the orchestration part, which is the really different elements of the form in here. You pick trigger because you don't want to do a recurring campaign, you want to do a trigger. And the first element you will have to choose is the trigger event. In our case, we want to remind a user of a research he did on your app or your website. It could be an article he just checked or read. It could be a product he was looking at or an holiday he's looking for. So it could be really like different kind of research. So what you will need to pick is a relevant event for this kind of use case. In our case, it will be viewed article. You pick this article, and this will trigger your message. You can go further and add a filter to it if, for instance, you would like this trigger to only be sent for specific products. So, for instance, let's imagine that I'm a retailer and I only want this use case to this message to be sent to user who looked at uh, something like sunglasses. Then my trigger will only be triggered if a user viewed an article with sunglasses. Second step, you pick a timer. It will be the time after which the trigger will be sent. So in my case, it could be 3 hours, for instance. So I can give some time for the users to come back to it and finish his action. Because indeed, one key element when you create a trigger is to always add, if possible, cancellation events. So in my case, I'm going to send this trigger if users are going to are looking for new sunglasses. But I don't want this trigger to be sent if he actually finished his action beforehand. So I need to add a cancellation event, which will be, in my case, that the article have been added to the cart or that the checkout has been done. So then I'm sure that the marketing pressure I'm going to put on my user is not too heavy. As for other use cases, you can add pressure management rule. You could put a capping, but it's not really recommended in the case of triggers because if you put a capping at this level, it will be the number of time the trigger can be sent over the whole lifetime of the user. But you can add a grace period, which will be the period during which the user won't receive the trigger, even though is triggering the event several times during that period. And this is up to 7 days. In the case of an abandoned search, we usually recommend to add a grace period of 7 days. But for a use case like abandoned basket, you could usually, well, what our clients are usually doing is a grace period of 48 hours. You put your starting and ending date, and then you write your message. So as I was mentioning, it's an abandoned search, so just like do a quick message, please get your eye. You can add personalization, of course. You also add a body in here, and you can upload an image, of course. And if everything is all right, don't forget to add your deep link. You can still start an A/B test, add a mobile landing, make sure that everything is okay by sending yourself a test, and then save it and run it, and then you're fine and you created your first trigger campaign.